Yes, a big welcome to you on our debut of today's program, The Constitution, coming to you on the platform of Lagos Weekend Television. Of course, The Constitution with it says a new TV series talking about issues focusing on those things that will help guide and give direction for good governance, development, and of course, growth in the Nigerian state. Without taking much of our time, because we need to really look at these issues critically that are before us. And one of such issues that we're going to talk about today has to do with restructuring. We are not going to do a Georgia thing about restructuring as people have been talking about it. We're rather going to look at how restructuring will give us a part of direction to make the difference, as we all believe and have come to agree that restructuring is just the way to go. And for today, a look at these and the solution to this issue is what my guest will be looking at with me as we discuss restructuring. Well, thank you for joining us. We'll be back in a minute. Let's just take a quick break. And when we come back, you'll be meeting my guest and we'll be talking about restructuring for today and some other things that are connected in that discuss of restructuring. We'll be back in a second.
That the labor of our heroes past be not be left in vain requires our collective efforts as a people. Join us on the discourse of issues and ideas on the Constitution, an interactive television program by the International Center for Tax Research and Development in providing a new socioeconomic and political order for Nigeria's growth and development. You can reach us on the following social media platforms for your comments, views, opinions, and contributions to help the government and the people build a new Nigeria for the benefit of all.
Yes, thank you for being there. My guest today, or our guest on the show today, I have this honor. You know, it's not easy to be a senior advocate of Nigeria, but when you have one, and a female for that matter, you want to respect such personality, looking at the fact that it's not just what anybody can be, but for such women to be that, it speaks volume of their personality and their background. It is a great honor to have here today Barrister Titilayo Akinlawon of Akinlawon and Ajomo, barristers, solicitors, and notaries. It's a great honor to have you join us for this discourse here today, ma'am.
Thank you very much. It's a privilege to be here.
A great honor to have you, ma'am.
Thank you.
And seated close to her is not someone new to you, if you ask me. She's been part of this, and she's been doing it. And she has a vision and, of course, a call to achieve a goal. And that is why today on this program, The Constitution, we want to say a big thank you first to her for coming, bringing it together, because without her vision, the talk on the Constitution today wouldn't have been a possibility. She's, to the glory of God, an accountant, a very powerful one, and of course the president and founder of the International Center for Tax Research and Development, Mrs. Morenike Tejuade Babentino Shai. It's a great honor having you be on the show today.
Thank you so much, Femi.
Our show, your show.
It is our show.
God used you to drive a vision
show,
for the good country of this great country.
We all have to put hands together. This is our country. We have nowhere else to go. And everything that is possible for each and every one of us to do to ensure that we have a healthy nation, a wealthy nation, a stable nation, we all have to do it.
We just must do it.
Yes, it's a tax that must be done. Yes.
All right, I want to thank you for that. Now, let's start with Barrister Titilayo Akinlawon. We don't want to go now into talking what others have been talking about. We just want to find a way and believing that restructuring is the way to go. What are the solutions that restructuring will provide if eventually we have come? I mean, we all agree that this is it and this is what it must be.
Well, I honestly believe that restructuring, we should start off with fiscal restructuring. That, in essence, means that states should have control over their resources and any money realized within the state. That is the major tenet of federalism. The states must be able to stand. As it were, today we have 36 states. How many of these 36 states are viable?
That's a very big question. How viable are they?
If we take Lagos, Rivers, maybe the Delta area, because of the international companies and people there, how many, like my state, Osho State, I'm sure it's not viable. The staff are being owed salaries for months.
Some would say it is a civil service state.
For months. So if the state would have control over its own resources, generate its own money, and remit money to the center, that will make everybody to be on their toes, not everybody going cap in hand to the center to collect money.
So
it
we
shouldn't
just need
be
an
so.
allocation to
No,
that
it shouldn't be so. It shouldn't be so. So we must start with that. And probably, again, we may want to look at physical restructuring, trying to streamline the states. States are not viable. I know people are advocating they want more states. What are we going to do with more states?
When existing states are not even meeting the yearnings of democratic government.
That is it. And if you look at the states, what is the level of the development of infrastructures in those states? We still don't have light. Many people don't have potable water. We don't have rail system. Everybody must come to the main center for them to be able to do anything meaningful with their lives. Those in the villages, those farmers in the villages don't have any iota of development. So I think if we have physical restructuring, instead of having 36 states, why don't we have zonal, regional, if we don't want to call it regional governments. Let states merge together. They can retain their identity, as it were, but let's pool resources together so that instead of having 6 states House of Assemblies, we can have only 1 regional House of Assembly or a zonal House of Assembly, as it were. We already have 6 zones. They call it 6 geopolitical zones. Why don't we adopt that and reduce the cost of governance?
For the betterment
of the people. The amount of money each state governor, state House of Assemblies, the judiciary, everything, it's so colossal that if we employ that resources to the development of the region, it will be a lot better for everybody. I mean, we could take a step back to when we had the regional system. Each region was developing at its own pace.
A competitiveness that added value.
Added value to everything and everybody. I mean, look at the way Western region developed like that because of the vision and the mission of the person in charge. So I would believe that restructuring is certainly a must from the physical point, from the fiscal, that's key. And then looking at the Constitution, as it were, the exclusive legislative list, as at today, has 68 items on its list. Looking at it, in any country where they practice federalism, those are just too numerous.
That's right.
Too numerous. Why can't we reduce it to key things for the federal government to take? Defense, security.
That's right.
Those are the key core issues. Immigration, anything that has to do with the international community, that's what the federal government should take charge of. Why should the federal government be looking into education when it's supposed to be the business of the local government? And how come local government is not functioning? I mean, these are all the issues I think we should look into and just run with it. The exclusive legislative list should be whittled down to not more than 20 items at the very most.
At the very most.
At the very, very most.
Allowing the residual states, I mean, to really take care of all the things that they should.
There are too many things that the local government should actually take on. They are the closest to the people.
That's true.
They are the ones that know what the people would desire at any particular time. Why would Abuja be sending down water to Kura Namuda? You know, it's not so. It's not going to work. That's why the infrastructures are decaying.
Because no maintenance and there is not enough.
Because the government is too far from the people. So let us move power to where the people reside.
We decentralize it.
We should do that. That's key.
Mrs. Morenike Tejuade Babintinashai, with all due respect, permit me to just say it anyway, but my might be no more. Your own view, your perception. What direction should this restructuring address once and for all to give Nigeria and take Nigeria to that area where we should be, or that level
Well, when you look at the present constitution, the 1999 constitution as amended, there are a lot of anomalies. There are a lot of ambiguities. You know, power has been given to the president and given now to the governors, but governors cannot act without the president. For me, our country traditionally had our public administration system, which we cannot afford to ignore. If you look, we said Federal Republic of Nigeria. That word republic is removing the monarchy from our constitution, because any country that practices republic, you know, saying a republic, it means that, you know, the royal families are out of the constitution. And that is why you find that as of today, the royal families or the monarchy is
in
not,
the hierarchical order of things in Nigeria.
It's not included because we are republic. That cannot work in Nigeria. The royal families, they are instrumental to development, politically, economically, and socially. Even as of today, they are judges all over the place. They maintain law and order. They do not allow chaos in their locality.
And communities.
Yes, and communities. If not for them, we'll be having more chaos than we are having at the moment. Now, we continue to compare ourselves with America. We are not Americans, and we know the history of America. The history of America is different from the history of Nigeria. We are nationalities on our own. You know, we are owners of the land on our own. You know, unlike the Europeans who went to America to settle. We didn't come here to settle. We had our own land, and we are multinational nation. So we cannot say because America is practicing republic, Nigeria should copy it. No, we have to recognize
what is peculiar to us as a people.
What is peculiar to us as a people. Today, you find that government is making use of the traditional rulers, and yet you don't recognize them in your constitution. And you keep begging them to please keep peace in their locality, domain. Within their domain. If they are not useful, why are you asking them to do that?
That's true.
So it's important for us that the word republic, we need to rethink. Even in Europe, they still keep their royal family, you know, intact, apart from their democratic rules. So we need to do that. Secondly, you look at the constitution, you look at the issue under section 6C, where governments cannot be, you know, be petitioned or taken to court, or not, just let me say, not accountable to the people. That is the basis of corruption. Because if I can give you my money in form of taxes, and you are telling me you don't have the right to account to me, that is the bedrock of corruption in Nigeria. And that area in the constitution has to be removed. It has to be, we need to restructure it. Now you find that the 2019 budget has been presented to the National Assembly without the government accounting for how 2018 was spent. That is the problem with that section in the constitution. The third item that I would like to mention with restructuring is the fact that if you look under section 5.2 of the constitution, the president, despite the fact that governors have their own powers, the president is allowed to make use of the exclusive legislative list. There is nothing wrong if the National Assembly is, you know, making laws on exclusive legislative list. But that law has to be for the whole country, not federal government. So that section section 5.2 that is allowing the president to move into exclusive legislative list as if that is the only
prerogative
of the federal government, that is totally wrong. That is dictatorship at, you know, at a go.
At its highest.
Yes, at the highest. You are now saying that all the key issues, like she has said before, the economic areas that states should, should look into, it is the president who has that prerogative. That is wrong. I also agree that the federal government's assignment must be clear in the Constitution. And it must be what zonal governments cannot do. For me, I will want a situation that we have zonal presidents. Because if we have zonal...
As a way out to finding solution to the problem of this country.
You know, we have the National Assembly must make laws on exclusive list, not for the federal government to use alone, but for the whole nation. There is nothing wrong about that, as long as it is not exclusive to federal government. Because the reason for that is that anything that is we have together, that is we happen to have together, at least we should have, the National Assembly to look at it. Of course, I believe that there are certain issues that zonal government should take care of. And like she said, all the exclusive lists should be reduced. Because once zonal governments do not have control over their resources, that is a big problem for development. And they cannot cooperate. And in any democracy, there must be cooperation among the units under the zones. So I don't believe we should create more states. She has said it. There's no need for creation of more states.
It will not add any
because it's going to, when we say Nigeria is indivisible, by creating more states, even the states we have now, we are already dividing ourselves.
And because we say Nigeria is indivisible.
And we said Nigeria is indivisible.
So indirectly, we are creating a division
We
already.
are creating that division because Lagos State wants to be Lagos State. There's no cooperation. And if we don't want, the visibility of Nigeria, there must be cooperation among the zonal governments.
That's a very good.
So these are areas of concern at the moment. There are more areas in the Constitution, but as I have said, this program is for Nigerians to sit down. Let us look at those areas in the Constitution that are causing chaos, directly or indirectly. And then we can both present it to the President, the National Assembly, the elders in the society, and we come to a conclusion. That's why we are bringing up this program.
All right, Barrister Kilawan, if I may come to you. No doubt you've both raised very cogent, powerful points here. But let's look at it from the point of legality. You're a senior advocate of Nigeria, man, with all due respect to that. And when we look at the legality in terms of our structure, the kind of government, systemic government we operate, has it to do with the shortcomings in our dilly-dallying of why things are not working and why restructuring must just be the way to go to look at all of these seemingly short gray areas that is affecting the entire structure of government?
I think the basic is that we're kind of deluding ourselves by saying that Nigeria is one. We are different nationalities. And for us to be able to move forward, we have to come to accept that and use that as a stepping stone to taking this country to where it should get to. In this, I recall that the former governor of Cross River State one time said, look, I observed my people and I know that they don't like to work, they like to enjoy. And that was why the Tinapa came on, and that was why the Calabar Christmas Carnival
that fantasy,
came up, and what have you. And that's
to key to the peculiar nature of the people.
So that's why I said we're different nationalities. So we have to look into the different nationalities to see what is peculiar to each nationality and employ that to catapult the nation ahead. And that is why the restructuring actually must come to play. The fact that before, we used to talk about the Kano pyramid of groundnuts.
Yes.
Where had they? They have disappeared.
The pyramid, the groundnut pyramid.
It disappeared. The coal mines of the East, what happened to them?
Many years back. And
what about the cocoa in the West? You understand? These are all the kind of peculiarities that we have to employ look inwards. What can this area do? How can this area push this country ahead? Instead of talking about, oh no, it has to be my state, it has to be your state, let's come together in that particular enclave and employ what is visible and available in that place to propel the country to get us to where we're getting to. And that is why I will still insist that we need to get back to the zones. It's already there. It's already well established. Let us employ those zones now as against the states to propel this country forward.
Ma, I need your contribution to that, but I also want us to look at the fact that we have a National Assembly. We have representation in government, and yet people seems not to have what they should have, because we believe representation should have represent the representees in the way they should be represented, but that seems not to be working. So what can be done? You have to respond to those two questions quickly.
Well, it's important because, you know, there are two types of democracy. You can have direct democracy, whereby people are involved in decision making. You have inclusive democracy. If there is any decision of government, there will be a town hall meeting, and people will vote for government to say, go ahead and do that. The second one is the representative democracy, where we elect people and ask them to represent us. The most unfortunate thing about our 1999 Constitution, under Section 14(2), is that the Constitution gave the people power with one hand and took it away with another hand.
It gave them power
with one hand and took it away with. So in effect,
how do we understand that?
Because they said that our representative is using our power to represent us, and with that, Section 14(2) should be removed. Power must belong to the people. That doesn't stop us from electing our representatives, but we must have the right, maybe through the use of referenda or other means, to decide on what has to be done. We have seen over the years now that representative democracy has not helped us at all. Because in some cases you will have in the National Assembly, in the State House of Assembly, you have people from the same political party, you know, and these political parties are not organs of the Constitution. They are people who are seeking power. And they will look for that power by all means necessary. So that area, Section 14(2), it has to be clear. And when you look at our political order, if you look at that section on political order, it has not been well enumerated. The political order, first of all, we must say the kind of political system Nigeria is to follow. That is important. And then before we start giving, if you look at that political order, they were just talking about integration. You know, people coming together, getting married and so on. But that is not what is important. We need to know the type of political system we are going to run. As it is now, the political parties, they have more power than our Constitution. They are the one actually running the government. They are the one actually, they are not following the rules
and
of
they
the
must
Constitution.
go by the Constitution.
And they have to go by, most of them, they will come and tell you my promise to Nigeria. We don't want your promise to Nigeria. We want you to tell us how the Constitution that has been prepared, what will you do to ensure that the Constitution is followed? When there are deficiencies in the Constitution, because we have seen a lot of deficiencies in the Constitution, it is the right of the government in power to ensure that that deficiency is removed by, you know, bringing people together. We've been having a lot of national conferences. They have been making suggestions, but government has not had the will to act on such
submissions of such committees.
You know, we have the 2014, 2010, 2005, and so on. That shouldn't be. Now, by 2019, we will be celebrating our 28th anniversary of democracy. Of a democratic rule. That is, I want to even use it that we got independence. When we got independence from the military, our independence from the British is one, the independence from the military is second, independence from the civil, our government, the civilian government. Because we are, I don't know, I don't want to say it, but we are not free now.
We are still coming to look more details into the Constitution.
We should look at the Constitution so that we can have freedom from the civilian government.
Well, we've said so much, and I have a short time to really address this because I must look at other areas. But quickly, Ma, your submission, because we must go now.
Yes, I would say that Section 14, the fundamental objectives, Chapter 2 of the Constitution, the Constitution itself provides for it the political objectives, the economic objectives, the social objectives, but puts a caution on it that is not justiciable. So what is the point of putting it there if it's not justiciable? You can't give with one hand and take away with another hand. Like Section 6(6)(c), Section 6, subsection 6(c) of the Constitution says the court cannot look into it, whether they have done it right or not. So why do we have it there?
That is a lacuna indeed.
So I would say that that particular section should be expunged from the Constitution. Let it be justiciable. If it's justiciable, people will challenge. You see Serap going to court challenging government here and there. Yes, on accountability. And then that will take away corruption, at least from the civil society.
Your submission now.
Well, my submission is that we need to have a National Constitution Council that will be maintaining our Constitution. Because for asking an executive, that is the president, to execute the Constitution and also be in charge, be maintaining the Constitution, is another means of corruption which should be removed. We should have a National Constitution Council that can oversee all the events in the Constitution to make sure that governments in power are performing according to the Constitution. We also need to have a Constitutional Court of Justice. Those that, if there's any offense, constitutional offense, you go straight to Constitutional Court of Justice. There's no need for you to go to ordinary court. So we should have those two key organs that can protect our Constitution. It's very, very important.
And safeguard it.
And safeguard it.
As a fundamental right.
As a fundamental right. You cannot ask a judge to be a judge in its own case. And that is what the Constitution is saying now. The president, who is an executive, is also the one who is supposed to maintain the Constitution. That is wrong.
That should be looked into too.
Yeah, it should be looked into.
Well, I want to say a big thank you to you all for this time out with us. Thank you so very much. Our Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Barrister Titilayo Akinlawo, thank you. Mrs. Babantina Shai, we cannot thank you enough because with a vision, I'm sure we'll get to where we're going. We'll get to the promised land.
Amen.
We say a big thank you to you.
Tree was restructured right from about the 60s. You can see every state was making do with what they can produce, and they used it in building their states. So you can talk of the Cocoa House in Ibadan. You can talk of University of Nigeria and Nsukka, which was got from the sale of oil produce and all that. Heights and Scapes from the north, they used in building Ahmadu Bello University and all that. So for me, there is every need, because it is good for the entire country to be balanced. A particular country is taking advantage of, a particular state is taking advantage over the others, and that is not fair. That is what is leading to all these unnecessary skirmishes here and there, because people are not getting what they are supposed to get, because they are feeling cheated.
What is most important is a good governance. If there is a good governance, you see that all this issue of agitation we phase out. No matter the level of a shout of restructuring, without good governance, you see that it's back to square one.
Restructuring Nigeria is the only solution to Nigerian problem as at now. So those in government, they should look at it. People are calling, and outside what they know, this is the only solution to our problem. If they do it, Nigeria will get better.
It's good. But I think too that good governing is equal good. So we need somebody that any way you see it, because there's a different way of restructuring. But the way good governing, and we say everybody will be happy.
Nigeria needs to be restructured to regionalism, which was being practiced by Awolowo, by Zik and Ahmad Bello. So bringing everything to Abuja is like fooling the masses. The clique don't want to restructure. The masses want to restructure. So the clique comprising the Igbo, the Yorubas, the Hausas, they come together as a force, stopping development of this country. And which is, if you continue in this form, Nigeria will be 200 years without development, except we restructure it so that every region account for their resources and develop according to their own pace. Nobody will be dragging each other downwards.
Welcome back and thank you for joining us. Well, we want to talk about restructuring today. It's part of the focus point of our discourse under the Constitution. And today, on the political aspect of the order that we are looking at, we want to take a look at restructuring. Restructuring has become an issue that people have been talking so much about. But rather than do a talk thing, we decided to want to take action. And by this action is to prefer solution as to the way forward in giving direction and meaning to the Nigerian state. It is not in my place here today to talk about this in fullness, but I have a competent youth, because we keep saying that they are the future leaders of tomorrow. And if as the future leaders of tomorrow, then they must have a right of say. You know, they keep telling you in a democracy, a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, which means the youth are equally a stakeholder, and they must be engaged in giving direction in terms of how Nigeria must grow and how Nigeria must be beneficial for the overall interest of the people in terms of good governance and, of course, uplifting the new order in the way of doing things. My guest here today to discuss this perspective of restructuring and why restructuring, I have here with me some gentlemen, I want to say, though youths, but then gentlemen they are. I have Chukwuka Edoziona. He's an accountant student, a final year accountant student from the University of Lagos, and he's an award-winning essay writer and founder of Mind the Gap, innovative co-director of Writers Association,
yes,
if
sir.
I'm correct.
Yes,
It's
sir.
a great honor to have you join me to discuss the Constitution and restructuring today.
It's a great honor to be here, sir.
And next to my guest, Chukwuka, is Olalekan Samuel Ajayi. He's a speaker, a public analyst, an award-winning debater, writer, and of course an on-air personality in radio, Lagos, University of Lagos Radio on campus, and is also a final year student of law at the University of Lagos. Ajayi, is also a great honor to have you.
Very well. I count it a great privilege to be among those who would sit to make decisions that will make Nigeria better.
I like that you're an on-air personality speaks on the way you speak. I think I like that.
Thank you very much.
I gave it to you.
Thank you,
So,
sir.
gentlemen, a big welcome to you. And let's just go straight to business. Let's start with you, Samuel Ajayi. Or rather, if you permit me, let me start with Chukwuka, if you so agree. Now, let's look at restructuring. Why restructuring? People have been talking about it. Is it really necessary? And if it is, then why?
Okay, thank you for the honor. Restructuring, like for the past, they're talking about restructuring everywhere, in media. So I think it's important because in the past few years, Nigeria has been going through a series of events which have called for restructuring. Personally, I believe that restructuring is important, that is needed. First of all, I'm from Anambra State, and the last time someone from the East, was like became a president was just Nnamdi Azikiwe. Like it was so since then no other like person from the only person that was close was the past president, President Jonathan. So I think in this area, restructuring is needed because there has to be equal opportunities for everybody from all the parts of Nigeria. The past presidents have been from the north. Most of them have been from the north. So I think, and there are plenty ethnic groups in Nigeria, not just the Hausa.
I mean, there are so many ethnic groups in Nigeria.
Yes, sir.
So which means we must give people that ample opportunity to have equal opportunities,
yes,
equal
sir.
access, equal privileges. Is that what you are saying?
Yes, sir.
And that is why we think restructuring is very necessary at this time.
That's why.
Because it should give people opportunities to be part of the corporate entity called the Nigerian state.
Yes, sir.
Is that what you were just trying to say in
Yes,
the TV?
yes, that's what I'm trying to say.
Are you sure you are very convinced about
Yeah,
that?
I'm convinced about that. I'm convinced. And one more thing. Before oil was discovered in Nigeria, all the states, all the regions, the north, the south, the east, the west, everybody was surviving because agriculture was booming. Agriculture was like the major,
the mainstay
of our economy. Yes, but since oil was discovered, only the states like south that produce oil and some other states around Nigeria, only those ones that are producing oil have been okay, have been, let's say, financially well off. Now those countries in the north that they don't produce oil, they are just there, like they are bare. They're like the most undeveloped part of Nigeria. So I believe restructuring in terms of the economy, let us leave oil. Like some other countries, Dubai, for example, they have oil refineries like a lot, but they are moving out, they are changing their idea. Okay, when all this oil is limited, it is not infinite. So they're already looking towards other alternatives, technology.
That's
for example, like Dubai is one of the world, like it's one of the
most advanced technological.
So if you change our ideas from just oil to agriculture,
focus into
tourism,
other areas that will generate and promote economic growth and development in the Nigerian state.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Now, Olalekan Samuel Ajayi, what's your own take? Why restructuring, and why do you think it is very necessary and important at this time?
All right, take it from here. It is a very key issue, considering the clouds surrounding the Nigerian entity at this moment. The general elections are here, and we see political candidates, in fact, taking it as point-scoring agenda. We have candidates telling you restructuring is the answer to the constant problems Nigeria has been experiencing, and some others on the defensive side that no, restructuring is not the answer. I feel if restructuring is to be the answer, why should restructuring be the answer? And the first reason I want to think restructuring is the answer is that there is a need for peaceful coexistence in the Nigerian entity. It's such a large geographical framework, so complex in that it is practically impossible for any government just to be at the top to want to oversee and control free flow of peace living daily amongst Nigerians. Over 190 million of us. So when restructuring comes, we have the power being broken down and given to the people at the grassroots level. So the people can talk to themselves, they know their leaders, they can access their leaders at whatever point in time it is, discuss their grievances, and they understand themselves best, whatever language it is they speak, whatever it is their beliefs and practices. And from this, conflicts would greatly be reduced. So peaceful coexistence within ourselves is one point for why we need restructuring. And then when we look at it as well, there is the great need for Nigeria to advance economically. I mean, inclusive growth and development amongst the entities.
That's right.
Nigeria is made up of diverse tribes, entities, tribes and tongues. So there is just that great need for us to progress at our states, individually, at our levels, according to the states as broken down by the constitution. So there are 36 states in Nigeria. We have the northern parts, we have the eastern, we have the western, we have the southern. So what it is that these guys have for themselves, let them be able to have the control over their resources instead of the allocation being taken to the center and the center being doing some magic, and before you know it, these people feel we are being cheated, or what is meant for us is being given to others and we are being deprived of what is actually our own. So when we have restructuring, we see the power being given to the people in that they can manage their resources and grow inclusively. And as a result of this, it will be an all-round economical change, turnaround for the Nigerian entity. So restructuring, I believe, is the answer.
Now that we are all agreeing that restructuring is the answer and it is the way to go, and from what you've said, in giving the analysis of the points you have raised as to creating equal opportunities letting people have equal access to the natural wealth, the political structure, and everything. What other thing do you think will add value to making restructuring very important and relevant in Nigeria today?
Now, we know that Niger Delta produces, like the region of Niger Delta produces the most oil in Nigeria. Yet, almost every day you see reports that there's oil spillage somewhere, there's oil pollution somewhere, that people that are living in riverine areas, they have issues with living their life normally. And this is the area that produces oil. That is like the mainstay, like the major area where oil is found in Nigeria. So if the restructuring takes place such that when oil is being drilled out, oil is being produced, the revenue that is gotten should be allocated, more of it should be allocated to that area that produces the oil in such a way that the money, the aid from the government will be able to offset the damages that are taking place in that area. Also, there are many other ways which the government can ensure that restructuring positively affects other, like the entire country.
Ways like what?
Ways like, okay, let's say for instance, I have a land and I find gold in my land, like large, massive amounts of gold. So now, according to the Constitution, the Constitution says that mineral resources that's found in any land, piece of land in Nigeria belongs to the federal government. Now, if I find that kind of resources, now normally I'm supposed to have access to it, like access to mine it, but it goes to the government. So if it can be restructured, if the Constitution can be changed or can be amended such that if I find resources, for example, if I find gold in my area, in my land, I tell the government, I found gold. So if it is, so I should get a cut, like a major, like 50% of the
because
revenue,
it is part of your natural own land resource.
Yes, sir.
Ajayi, let us quickly take it off from you and let's wrap it up on this note with you.
All right, sir. Thank you. Restructuring, in as much as we clamor for it, we should understand that it is a complex concept. And in the words of Professor Yemi Osinbajo, the Honorable Vice President of Nigeria, addressing some Nigerians in the United States, sometimes in August 2018, he said Nigeria does not need restructuring. Rather, what we need is to curb grand corruption and ensure proper dissemination of prosperity to Nigerians. So the big question is the current structure capable to answer what Professor thinks is the solution to Nigeria's problem? And the big answer is no. Because the premise upon which the Nigerian entity is based is seen as a faulty one, which is the ground norm, our constitution. Professor Akinwuye Bode, who is a professor of international law, used to lecture at the University of Lagos, said the Constitution of Nigeria is an illegitimate instrument. It is a product of the military, the Abdul Salam government to be precise. And then it is foisted on the people as if it is our own. In fact, the preamble to the Constitution reads, "We, the people of Nigeria," whereas the people were not carried along in the formulation of...
called upon as stakeholders to talk about it.
Exactly. So it's not the voice of the people. The Constitution is not reflecting what the voice or the people truly want. So we should start from there. Restructuring should start from we amending our Constitution to ensure that power is not so foisted in the hands of one person at the center. And we should note that international or foreign bodies actually appear about this, because if they need to get Nigeria, all they need is to target that one person. What is it that he wants? Once we satisfy that, he has the power to deliver the whole of Nigeria for us. And such goes at the state level as well. And if we go back to history, that's how Lagos State was ceded off to the British when they captured the interests of King Dosumu, who ceded off the Lagos entity to the Britons. So we should see that power should not just be foisted in the hands of an individual who would have an overall say on behalf of the people, but rather the people should have an instrument in themselves which will reflect what they truly want. And when we have this in place, when we have the Constitution of the people in place, we can see these people being able to access directly these people they've put in power. And by that, they demand accountability. And you've tackled corruption. And as I made mention earlier, it's as well give the people the power to be able to control their resources. And how best is prosperity gotten when the people do not have access or control of their own resources? So what Professor is seeking to tackle is actually embedded in what restructuring is presenting. So restructuring just needs us to fully understand what it entails and how to go about it. So starting from the Constitution, starting from giving back the power to the people, starting from putting in place processes whereby the people can call for accountability. I mean, Mrs. Morenike Babington Ashaye, who is the director of ICTRD, wrote a book on the taxpayer's perspective on restructuring. And she says that the people who pay taxes demand full accountability from the government.
That's right.
But then where it is that the people they've put in power are only there at the center, Abuja, pretending to represent the people's interest at the Senate or the House of Reps, or the president, vice president, who is inaccessible to the people, how then do the people demand or cry for accountability? But when we have restructuring in place, we have a system whereby the people in themselves are in charge of themselves, politically, economically, virtually in all aspects of their lives. And all these problems that we've been going on and off over time on are easily going to be solved by restructuring.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I think we'll just leave it there for today. It's been nice having you join us on the Constitution and sharing your own view and opinion as stakeholders. Even though you're youth, but then you have a right of say, and you must have a say as indeed as required by the law. Well, thank you for your contribution.
Thank you.
That the labor of our heroes past will not be left in vain requires our collective efforts as a people. Join us on the discourse of issues and ideas on the Constitution, an interactive television program by the International Center for Tax Research and Development, in providing a new socioeconomic and political order for Nigeria's growth and development. You can reach us on the following social media platforms for your comments, views, opinions, and contributions to help the government and the people build a new Nigeria for the benefit of all.
Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. Like we did say, we just want to take a look at tax matters, and understanding taxation is very key. And don't forget that this is very important, because without taxation, we can't be talking about infrastructural development, growth, and all that people are talking about today. It takes the taxpayers' money that is working, but then we need to understand some fundamentals about taxation. My guest here today again is Mrs. Morenike Babington Ashaye. She's a consultant, a taxation specialist, aside being a chartered accountant. So she's going to take us through a 5-minute jiffy on the understanding of taxation as instrumental to growth and development. We'll be back with her in a minute.
It's true, we make a better day, just you and me.
It is important for us to know why taxation is important and why we are discussing the issue of constitution. The constitution is a legal instrument that binds people together. It can only be recognized if it is widely accepted by the people, and not only by their representatives or governments. Over the years, the Constitution has been developed without the acceptance by Nigerians, and that method needs to change. Since our independence from the military in 1999, civilian governments have not paid much attention to the Constitution. Instead, they come with their party manifestos and only refer to the Constitution whenever they are criticized or want to support their actions. Instead of governments explaining how they will implement the provisions of the Constitution relating to political, economic, and social order and improve on the Constitution deficiencies, they lay claim to their personal and political party agenda and classify it as my promise to Nigerians. For how long shall we continue to live on the benevolence of the elected? Taxation plays an important role in the life of any nation. The taxes we pay help sustain the sanctity and sanity of any government. Taxes have been used by countries without mineral resources to build happy nations. The taxpayer expects that her contributions will assure her of security of life and property, good governance, transparency, and accountability. The Constitution is a vital and sensitive instrument to ensure the happening of the taxpayers' expectations. It is in this regard that the International Center for Tax Research and Development, ICTRD, takes it upon itself to look into these extramoral activities of taxation, that is, those things that are beyond tax policy, tax laws, and tax administration, which is termed the tax system. ICTRD organized a constitutional roundtable in December 2017, and that was when we began our research on the Chapter 2 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. Any country without an acceptable constitution runs the risk of chaos, anarchy, restlessness among her people.
It's true, we make a better day, just you and me.
Well, that's just the much we can take today on the Constitution. And we want to thank you for being part of this. And at least from what you've seen, our social media platforms, you can always reach us on the social media platforms for feedbacks and for us to be able to address and attend to some of the questions you will be asking us and giving answers to them. For today, we want to say a big thank you and hoping again that you will join us same time next week. Until then, let's please ensure that we do the right thing and together we'll take Nigeria to the next level.
No, love is all we need.